You ever have one of those mornings where you wake up, reach for your phone before your feet hit the floor, and 20 minutes later, you've gone down a rabbit hole of emails, social media, and bad news headlines? We've all done it. It feels harmless, just catching up. But according to doctors who study longevity and daily behavior, those harmless little habits, they add up, and not always in our favor. That's the thing about daily routines. We don't notice them while they're happening. They just become our norm. But sometimes, the norm quietly chips away at our health, our energy, and even our chances of reaching those extra decades we dream of. I get it. Life in your 40s, 50s, or early 60s can feel like being on a treadmill that's just a little too fast. Work deadlines, family obligations, health checkups you keep postponing. And in the rush, we lean into familiar habits to get through the day. A quick sugary snack for energy, skipping lunch because we're busy, reaching for a glass of wine to unwind at night. Again, all normal. But here's where it gets tricky. When they become so automatic, we forget to ask if they're helping us thrive or slowly stealing our spark. Doctors who study long-lived populations around the world have found that it's often not the grand things that extend life, but the small things we stop doing. Less sitting, less snacking out of stress, less late-night screen time, less skipping sleep. And it's not about being perfect, it's about noticing. So let's start noticing. One of the biggest silent drains? Sitting for long stretches without moving. You might be thinking, well, of course I sit. My job's at a desk. Or, I'm retired now, what else am I supposed to do? But extended sitting, especially without posture awareness or breaks to move, is now linked to everything from slowed metabolism to increased risk of cardiovascular issues. Even if you exercise regularly. Yes, even if you go to the gym. The body doesn't just need bursts of movement. It needs steady, low-grade motion throughout the day to thrive. Think about the last few days. Did you move consistently? Did you sit in one place for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time? No judgment, just awareness. Because awareness is where change starts. Next time you catch yourself deep in work, lost in a show, or stuck in traffic, take a moment when it's safe to stretch, stand, or even shift your posture. These micro-adjustments may seem too small to matter, but doctors say they're one of the strongest predictors of long-term mobility. And here's another sneaky habit: snacking while distracted. You know the kind. A handful of pretzels while standing at the counter. That second cookie while watching the news. Food that's not a meal, not satisfying, but somehow keeps showing up in your hand. The body doesn't register distracted eating the same way it does mindful meals. It leads to overeating, blood sugar spikes, and over time, it can strain your metabolic system in ways that set the stage for weight gain, fatigue, and insulin resistance. But again, this isn't about guilt. It's about giving ourselves the gift of attention. Because when we eat with focus, even just sitting down, no screens, taking a breath between bites, we're telling our bodies, this matters. And when we start doing that, everything else begins to change too. Have you ever caught yourself holding your breath without even realizing it? Maybe while reading a stressful email, watching the news, or concentrating on something tricky. It's such a small thing. But the doctor I spoke with said this: unconscious habit of shallow or interrupted breathing is more common than we think, especially as we get older. And it can quietly impact everything from energy to memory. When we don't breathe deeply, our bodies don't get the oxygen they need to fuel our brain, our muscles, even our immune system. It's like running a car on half a tank. Things still work, but not at their best. And here's the good news. Fixing it doesn't require meditation mats or special breathing classes, unless you enjoy those, of course. It can be as simple as stopping once or twice a day to take 5 slow, deep breaths. In through your nose, out through your mouth, just 5, that's all. It calms your nervous system, resets your focus, and tells your body, you're safe, you're supported. The doctor called it one of the cheapest and most powerful health boosters we have. And I love that, because anyone, anywhere, can do it. Now, while we're talking about habits we barely notice, here's another one that sneaks up quietly: multitasking. We've been told for years that juggling multiple things at once is productive, impressive, even necessary. But research shows that constantly splitting our attention, especially as we hit our 40s, 50s, and 60s, actually drains our mental battery faster. It increases stress, lowers memory retention, and makes simple mistakes more likely. I remember watching my friend Diane trying to plan her daughter's wedding, answer work emails, and cook dinner all at once. By the end of the day, she wasn't just tired, she was frazzled. And the doctor explained that this kind of mental overload, day after day, raises cortisol, our stress hormone, which over time can harm the brain's memory centers. The simple fix? Choose to focus on one thing at a time, even just for short bursts. If you're folding laundry, just fold laundry. If you're talking on the phone, give the conversation your full attention. It's not about perfection, it's about practicing presence. And you'll be amazed at how much calmer, clearer, and even more joyful everyday moments feel when you let them unfold one at a time. And speaking of presence, let's talk about screens. I know, phones, tablets, computers, they've become lifelines. They help us stay connected, informed, entertained. But the doctor warned me that too much screen time, especially late in the day, messes with our natural sleep rhythms. It tricks the brain into staying alert when it should be winding down, leading to poorer sleep quality, which then affects everything from weight to memory to mood. I used to scroll through social media every night in bed thinking it helped me relax. But what it really did was overstimulate my brain and steal precious hours of deep restorative sleep. Once I switched to reading a book or listening to soft music instead, my sleep improved dramatically. And better sleep made everything else feel easier the next day. Fewer aches, clearer thinking, better energy. So if you've been feeling foggy or sluggish lately, consider this gentle experiment. Try turning off screens at least an hour before bed. Replace them with something calming: a puzzle, a quiet craft, a phone call with a friend. It's a small shift, but it gives your brain the chance to settle, and your body the deep rest it needs to repair and refresh overnight. I want to pause here and remind you, none of this is about being perfect. It's not about cutting out everything fun or living like a monk. It's about noticing what habits serve you and what habits quietly take away from your health, your energy, your future. And you know what's beautiful? Every time you notice one small shift you can make and actually try. You know, one thing that really stayed with me from that conversation with the doctor was this idea that what you stop doing matters just as much as what you start. And it made me think about another habit that sneaks into midlife without even noticing, or skipping water. It sounds silly, right? We've all heard drink more water 1,000 times. But here's the truth. As we get older, our natural thirst cues start to fade. We simply don't feel thirsty as often, even I, though our bodies still need that hydration just as much. And the less we drink, the more we open the door to fatigue, headaches, joint stiffness, and even higher risk for falls, because dehydration can affect balance and coordination. I'll be honest, there were days I'd get to dinner and realize I hadn't had a single glass of water since breakfast. Not because I was trying to avoid it, but because I just wasn't paying attention. The doctor said that even mild dehydration over time can add up, quietly straining our kidneys, our heart, even our skin. So here's a simple fix I started doing. I keep a glass or bottle of water in every room I spend time in. One by the bed, one on the kitchen counter, one near the TV. That way, even if I forget to go get a drink, the reminder is right there. It's become automatic to take a sip when I pass by. And you'd be amazed at how quickly those little sips turn into the recommended amount by the end of the day, without feeling like a chore. And while we're talking about things that seem small but add up, let's talk about posture. Yep, posture. The doctor told me that slouching, whether we're at the computer, watching TV, or even reading, does more than make us look tired. Over time, it can compress our lungs, reduce oxygen intake, and even increase the risk of falls because it shifts our center of balance forward. It made me realize how often I found myself hunched over without even thinking about it. And honestly, it wasn't about sitting military straight. It was about gentle reminders throughout the day. Standing tall while brushing my teeth, pulling my shoulders back while waiting for the kettle to boil, even checking my posture. During commercial breaks, those little adjustments, they make a difference. The doctor explained that good posture supports better breathing, digestion, circulation, and even mood. Yes, standing taller literally lifts your spirits. Now, if you're thinking, okay, water, posture, breathing, is that really enough to help me live longer? I want you to know, yes, because health isn't built by grand, overwhelming efforts. It's built by these tiny, doable moments, repeated day after day, that accumulate into strength, resilience, and energy. And here's another sneaky habit the doctor called out: staying indoors too much. I know, it sounds harmless, but staying inside day after day quietly robs us of natural light, fresh air, movement, and even social connection. And the less we step outside, the more we risk vitamin D deficiency, weaker bones, lowered mood, and a shrinking sense of adventure. I used to think of going outside as a chore, but then I reframed it. Now I treat my walk around the block as a little treasure hunt. I notice new flowers blooming. I wave to neighbors. I feel the sun on my face. And every time I come back inside, I feel lighter, more alive. It doesn't have to be far or long. Even 10 minutes outside can reset your mind, brighten your mood, and nourish your body in ways no supplement ever could. So if today's been one of those stuck indoors days, I invite you, step out just for a bit. Feel the breeze. Watch the clouds. Let the world remind you it's still turning, and you're still part of it. And that, my friend, is the beauty of small choices. Every glass of water, every deep breath, every stretch toward the sky. They're quiet, gentle ways of telling your body, I'm here, I care, let's keep going. It's funny, isn't it? How some of the most powerful shifts in our health don't come from fancy treatments or expensive supplements, but from paying attention to the simple things we do or don't do every single day. And that brings me to another habit the doctor really emphasized: eating too fast. Now I know what you're thinking. We've been eating our whole lives. How hard can it be? But hear me out. When we rush through meals, swallowing quickly, barely chewing, multitasking with TV or our phones, we're not just missing out on enjoying the food. We're skipping an important part of digestion that starts right in the mouth. The doctor explained that when we slow down, chew thoroughly, and actually taste our food, we're helping our digestive system work more efficiently. We absorb more nutrients, feel fuller on less food, and avoid bloating or discomfort later. And there's something more subtle too. Slowing down meals creates a natural pause in the day, a moment to breathe, to savor, to reconnect, whether that's with loved ones at the table or simply with ourselves. I tried it. Set down my fork between bites. I counted to 5 while chewing. And you know what? My meals felt more satisfying, and I wasn't reaching for snacks an hour later. Now, closely tied to that habit is one I didn't expect the doctor to mention. But it makes so much sense: worrying too much. Worry sneaks in under the radar, doesn't it? It hums in the background while we read the news, hear about a friend's illness, or think about finances. Sometimes it feels like worrying is the responsible thing to do. Like if we let our guard down, something bad will happen. But here's the reality. Chronic worrying keeps our bodies in a constant low-level stress mode. And over time, that steady drip of stress hormones wears us down. It raises blood pressure, disrupts sleep, lowers immunity, and even increases inflammation in the body. The doctor wasn't saying, don't care. Of course we care. But he said something that really stuck with me. Every minute you spend worrying is a minute you're not living. It hit me hard, because I realized how many quiet moments I'd filled with anxious thoughts instead of presence. Now, when I catch myself spiraling, I try a little trick he shared. I ask, is this something I can solve right now? If yes, I take one small action. If no, I tell myself, I've done what I can for now, and I gently shift my focus back to something in front of me. Whether it's folding laundry, watering a plant, or watching a bird outside, little shifts, but they help. And speaking of little shifts, the doctor also warned about spending too many hours sitting still. Now, I know we've touched on movement before, but this goes deeper. It's not just about exercise. It's about breaking up long stretches of stillness. Even if you walk 30 minutes in the morning, if you sit the next 8 hours straight, your body still suffers. Circulation slows, muscles stiffen, blood sugar rises. It's like the body needs regular reminders that it's alive and moving. So I started setting a timer every hour, just to stand, stretch, walk to the mailbox, refill my water. Nothing fancy, but those little movement breaks have changed the way my body feels by the end of the day. Less achy, more awake. And bonus, it gives my mind a little reset too. I've come to see these tiny choices as quiet gifts we give ourselves. Not dramatic, not showy, but they add up, like drops filling a well. And as we keep peeling back the layers of these everyday habits, one thing becomes clear. Living longer and better isn't about perfection. It's about small kindnesses given to ourselves, over and over, even on the messy days. Because every sip of water, every deep breath, every stretch, every pause to savor a bite or notice a bird, these aren't just tasks on a checklist. They're ways of saying, I choose life, I choose joy, I choose to keep showing up. It's interesting, isn't it? How the simplest habits, the ones we barely think about, can carry so much weight over the years. And as the doctor shared more, one habit really caught me by surprise. It's something so many of us do without realizing, holding on to grudges. I'll be honest with you, I used to think forgiveness was about letting someone off the hook, that it meant saying what they did was okay. But what I've come to understand, and what the doctor confirmed, is that forgiveness isn't really about the other person. It's about freeing ourselves. When we carry resentment, anger, bitterness, it's like dragging around a heavy bag of rocks. Day after day, it weighs us down. And over time, it doesn't just wear on the heart emotionally. It takes a toll, physically too. Higher stress levels, increased blood pressure, more tension in the body, even weakened immune function. The doctor said it plainly. Your body can't tell the difference between anger you feel today and anger you've been holding for 20 years. It reacts the same. That hit me hard, because I realized those old stories I replay in my mind, that pain I revisit when I think about what should have been said or shouldn't have happened. It wasn't changing anything. It was just keeping me stuck. So I started small. I wrote a letter I never sent. I whispered forgiveness to the wind. I practiced saying, I release this, even when a part of me wanted to hold tight, and something started to loosen. Not overnight, but little by little I felt lighter, less burdened, more open to joy. Because forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about freeing space in your heart for something better. And speaking of making space, the doctor pointed out another habit that quietly steals from our health. Skimping on sleep. I know. Sleep can feel elusive sometimes, especially as we age. The body aches, the mind races, or we get into a pattern of late-night TV, dozing in the chair, waking at odd hours. But here's the thing. Sleep is when the body repairs. It's when the brain clears out waste, consolidates memory, restores energy. Without enough deep, restful sleep, everything feels harder. Mood, focus, immunity, even appetite. The doctor told me, one of the best anti-aging tools isn't a pill or a lotion, it's a good night's sleep. And while perfect sleep every night may be unrealistic, there are gentle ways to support it. A calming bedtime routine, less screen time before bed, a darker, cooler room, maybe a warm bath or a cup of herbal tea to wind down. I started lighting a candle and listening to soft music while I brushed my teeth. It sounds silly, but that little ritual signals to my brain, we're winding down now. And it helps. Because when we sleep well, we wake well. And how we wake shapes the whole day. As I sat with all these habits the doctor shared, the ones to gently reduce, the ones to embrace instead, I kept thinking of something he said near the end of our conversation. He looked me right in the eye and said, "Longevity isn't about living forever. It's about making the years you have truly yours." That stayed with me, because isn't that the real goal? Not just adding more years to life, but more life to the years. And every small step we take toward that, every habit we release, every new choice we make, every moment we pause to care for ourselves, it builds something beautiful. A life that feels awake, connected, joyful. Not perfect, not always easy, but real. And if there's one thing I've learned from listening to the doctor and from my own journey, it's this: we're never too old or too late to begin again, to choose differently, to choose better. So my friend, as we wrap up today, I hope you feel encouraged, empowered, maybe even a little inspired to notice one small habit you could shift this week. Not all at once, not perfectly, but gently, intentionally, kindly, because every small step counts. Every gentle shift adds, and you deserve a life that feels like yours.